you were in New York for
Yes.
September 11th.
Yes.
And I guess I would just ask, maybe we take a couple minutes if you could share a little bit about, and I know, and I'm not trying to take the whole podcast there, but I feel like this was pretty seminal for you in a number of
Yeah.
ways, and you're writing about it, which I would, if you have the link, I'd love to include that in the show notes.
Sure.
The you're writing about that very much spoke to me, and this was recent, so I teared up when I was writing it, and it was like last year that I read it, so it's been a
Oh,
while.
well,
Just yeah,
yeah. Well, thank you for that. So yeah, we had been in New York for about 6 months. It was, what was it, 19 years ago? And I still, give me a sec.
you're fine.
Okay. So we've been in New
I'm
York.
sorry for how hard this is.
No, it's okay. It's okay. It's fine once I get going. It's usually just like the start of it. I get a little, it's still fresh
Yeah.
in a lot of ways. Um, Although I can talk about some of the funny things that happened as a result as well. So we'd been there about 6 months, and actually my birthday is September 9th and Steve's is the 3rd, and we had gone away to Boston for the weekend. We took the train. Thank God. My first day back in work was that Tuesday, September 11th, and where we lived in Midtown Manhattan, in an area called Hell's Kitchen. It's just west of Times Square. And where I worked was at 53rd and Lexington, which was about a mile and a half. And we had a shuttle bus that would take us to the middle of town. And I remember very distinctly, I took the shuttle bus to the middle of town that day, and I got off, and I heard a plane go over, and it was really loud, just the loudest plane I've ever heard in my life. And I remember thinking, God, what would happen if a plane crashed in the city? That would be horrible. A completely innocent thought,
Wow.
And it takes about 15 minutes to walk to work. So I walked to work. I worked on the 33rd floor of the Citigroup building, and if you ever look at the New York skyline, it's kind of a silver building with a kind of a angular roof. It's common in a lot of the TV shows when they show the skyline in there. So
Right.
anyway, I was on the 33rd floor. I got off the elevator, and the receptionist said, "Did you hear a plane hit the Twin Towers?" And I said, "Oh my God." And I started to run toward the window because we could see it from where we were. We're about, I don't know, 4 miles away maybe. And we could see it. And then all of a sudden my heart just like jumped into my throat because Steve worked there.
So Steve worked there.
Yeah. He worked in building 7, and that was the building that fell later in the day.
Yeah.
So I ran to my desk. My mom was calling. I'm like, "Mom, I love you. I'm fine. I have to call Steve." I call Steve. He's like, "We're fine." And then he's like, "There's been another explosion. We have to go." And it was like, "Okay, I love you," And uh, you know, I as you might be able to tell, I'm a little emotional, and I don't always handle things very calmly at the outset. I calm down afterwards, but I get a little bit worked up. And so I'm running through the office, and they have the TV on, and I look at my boss, and I'm like, "I'm not dying here. I'm going home." And I left, and everybody left, and everybody was kind of freaking out. Nobody knew. There were so many rumors as well,
Right.
and being so close to it, we didn't have all the information that other people who were further away had, because they had distance and Anyway, we left, and eventually Steve made it home. They walked all the 3 miles up to our apartment. They made it home. We saw his building fall from our balcony. So that was weird. And the thing was, it was a gorgeous day. It was so beautiful. It was perfect September, sunny, really, really beautiful day. And then where we lived, we were really fortunate because the smoke from the aftermath all drifted over toward like Brooklyn and Long Island, and we didn't get any of that. So we haven't dealt where people where we lived, we didn't deal with the bronchial issues that a lot of people have had because of it. Anyway, Steve and like 10 of his office mates came to our apartment that day, our 700 square foot Manhattan
Right.
apartment, you know, and so we're all in there, and there were a couple of people from China who were, I'm sure, were scared to death. I didn't know where Steve was for 3 hours. I couldn't call his parents because I didn't know what to tell them. One of my very best friends, Phyllis, she lived in Chicago. She had moved to New York just after us. She worked in the Twin Towers. I didn't hear from her until like 5 o'clock that day. You know, I didn't know what was going on. You know, but eventually I heard from Phyllis and she was okay. You know, everybody that was in our apartment made their way home. The Circle Line, which is a tourist tour boat thing, they started running ferries basically, and you could just hop on to get people over to New Jersey. And we lived over near where the Circle Line was, so we had some people go out and they were able to get off the island that way, get off Manhattan that way. But it was, you know, it was a heck of a day.